Calling to order the Woburn School Committee special meeting for March 16th, 2021. Could we please all salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chairperson, if I may, have everybody please remain standing for a couple of moments of silence for staff people that have passed away. Most recently, our Principal, Mr. Jim Foley from Woburn Memorial High School, Nancy Connors, a cafeteria employee, as well as Dr. Frank McCall recently as well, serving our students and our families of Woburn for many, many years in the school district. Ms. Connors, Mr. McCall, and Principal Jim Foley. Moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. This is a public meeting for the Woburn School Committee. Anybody that speaks at this meeting is consenting to be recorded. This is being live streamed at Woburn Public Media Station. I have a Zoom meet open for the purpose of public comments only, and I will be closing the Zoom after that session. Could the superintendent please call the roll?
Ms. Chisholm.
Here.
Ms. Cormier.
Present.
Mr. Lipset.
Here.
Mr. Kissel.
Here.
Mr. Morenin.
Present.
Dr. Wells.
Present.
Ms. Crowley.
Present. So we all here and accounted for. There are no members that are meeting with us remotely. We will begin public comment. As you know, I arranged for both in-person public comment and Zoom. I have one person that has signed up, and I believe that is Rachel Kuberry. Are you ready to speak, Ms. Kuberry? Thank you. Hi. Whenever you're ready, the school committee is ready to listen.
Since I was last here in October, we've had a great experience with the virtual academy. We got a new teacher in early November. Tangible materials were sent for our home. Small group instruction started, and my daughter has been engaged in learning. I'm here to ask for continued consistency for our virtual academy students. My daughter is in kindergarten and has already had 2 teachers this year. Though we understand that changes will be required, we hope that she will not be assigned a new and 3rd teacher in April. Second, I'm asking that the model of virtual academy remain essentially unchanged as we move into the final trimester of the year. I have read the commissioner's updates and feel that zooming in to an in-person kindergarten class will not meet the needs of our youngest children. Finally, for our teachers and students who will be in the buildings, I encourage renewed communication and discussion around ventilation as so much has changed in recent months. Studies have now indicated that 6 and 3 feet distancing is essentially the same regarding COVID transmission. In the fall, the CDC had recommended 6 feet distancing due to the evidence at the time that the virus was transmitted via droplets. A growing body of evidence now shows that the virus can also be transmitted via tiny aerosol particles. It's similar to how you can smell cigarette smoke when you're further away than 3 or 6 feet. So it's not surprising that distancing is not the critical element, but instead ventilation and air exchange. This will be even more important as we have more students in each classroom space. I look forward to hearing more about our ventilation and mitigation plans as we move to plan the full return. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kuberry. I deeply appreciate your comments. Is there anybody else on the Zoom meet that would like to be heard by the school committee in public comment? Please chat me. I'm not seeing any, so I will be closing this link because I did not provide it for simultaneous viewing, but this meeting will be live streamed on the Woburn Public Media Station. So thank you very much, and I'll be closing this now. Okay.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we put into the permanent record the email you received regarding this issue that you distributed today.
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. You know what, actually, since that was meant to be a public comment, I am going to read
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
And thank you, Dr. Wells, for reminding me. Good evening. My name is Courtney Glazier, and I am the mom to 3 boys, a 6th grader at the Joyce Middle School, a 3rd grader at the Harold Wyman Elementary School, and a 3-year-old toddler. I am writing today to express my strong desire for my children, the children of Woburn, to return to a full-day in-person school as soon as possible. I plead with you to return all students at the same time, a hope voiced by the Superintendent Crowley during the last school committee meeting. The mental health of our children has been tremendously impacted by this pandemic. I do not believe that we as a society can even fathom the overall toll this year's challenges have taken on our kids and the mental well-being. I believe it will be years before we even begin to comprehend the true amount of damage done. I have watched my children change. Sorry. Okay. I have watched my children change, and not for the better. I have watched my sixth grader go from a kid who did not stress about school and wanted to learn to a kid who becomes emotionally daily and cries to me how hard it is to be on Zoom meets, expresses feelings of overwhelmed and upset, but is unsure why, and has received reports from his teachers of a decreased lack of interest and effort. I have watched my third grader who already struggles tremendously with everyday normal demands of school, and who was making gains before the world changed, go backwards, and his willingness to try, his overall attitude towards learning. I have watched him struggle so very much in terms of all the changes in his life over this year. Having no control over it and not understanding it has been soul-crushing at times. I have watched my children melt away this year, a part of them at least, and we no longer go on like this, the less chance I have of making them their way back. Our story, the story of how this pandemic has greatly impacted the mental health of my children, it's a shared story with so many other families in Woburn. I believe the fact that we live in Woburn is an important part of our story because I truly believe our community cares about our kids. I have sincere thanks to Superintendent Crowley, the teachers, every single person in the Woburn Public Schools who have gotten our kids through this year. I believe Superintendent Crowley and the school committee have made many good decisions this year, and now it's time for another one. Return our kids to school now, all of them. Do not wait to return middle school and high schoolers, please. Thank you so much for listening. Courtney Glazier, 19 Valley Road. Thank you. That was powerful. I also just wanted to take a moment to reflect on the fact that the year has been a year since the pandemic started, and we should just take a quick moment to recognize that families continue to suffer, and my heart goes out to this constituent and all of our constituents that still continue to suffer. Just 1 minute. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Girls Hockey Middlesex League champs. Dr. Crowley.
So, as keeping with the new tradition of silver linings in the Woburn Public Schools, we have the girls hockey team who represented the Woburn Memorial High School in the Middlesex League, and we're the champions of the Middlesex League this year. Steve Kennedy, Coach Steve Kennedy is on with members of his team. They're on a Google Meet for those of you that are at home. And so I'll turn it over to Coach Kennedy to give us some highlights of the season as you see fit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's really nice to be here tonight. We very sincerely appreciate the opportunity that you're providing us and the recognition that is being extended to the girls. Each of the last 2 seasons, the team has started out by actually writing thank you notes to somebody in their lives who made an impact on them. It's helpful before you begin anything meaningful to recognize that you didn't get there on your own. And so we would like to begin tonight by extending very sincere thank yous to all the members of the school committee, Superintendent Crowley, Mayor Galvin, Jess Callahan, Jimmy Duran, and anybody else at the civic and the school level who played a role in advocating for winter sports to happen and to providing these players with a season in the first place. We were all provided with a terrific opportunity, and the best way to show your appreciation when you're given an opportunity is to make the absolute best of it, and I'm happy to say that that's what the girls did this season. Navigating a shortened season along with new procedures and rules was difficult and required significant leadership, which was provided by our seniors and specifically our 4 captains. Not only did they contend with not having a locker room or buses for away games or typical team bonding opportunities, but this season, actually, due to a shortage of numbers, we had 8th graders competing on the team for the first time in nearly 2 decades. But the seniors really rallied, and they created an environment that was fun, encouraging, welcoming for everybody, and really allowed team chemistry to develop, a very strong bond to develop, and I think that's what really led to the overall success of the team. And it also is what made it such a pleasure to coach. I want to make sure that I recognize Coach Bob McCurtain and Coach Jillian Gordon as well. Jill is an alumni of the program who's back to help out for their significant contributions. But really, I think it's the team's a collection of high character individuals. The seniors are living the program on such a high note. They have been tremendous role models for all of the younger kids. And, again, doing so in a year when they're missing out on so many opportunities typically enjoyed by seniors. It was really amazing to see them complete all 10 regular season games, maximize the number of postseason appearances, and then, of course, you really can't beat winning the last game of the season, which they've been able to do 3 out of their 4 years here. So pretty good stuff there from the team. And, again, thank you to all of you on a busy night and an important night. We're discussing, major issues, including the return to school in person for the students. To take time and recognize us really is meaningful. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Any questions for Coach Kennedy? Not seeing any. I think we all have been busy. Mr. Mulrennan?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, Coach, ladies and gentlemen of the team. Just want to welcome you and congratulate you on another successful season, Coach. A couple of notes I had here from previous engagements with the team. I know last year, as Ms. Crowley indicated, we just began our covert, and I know this team, and I think the young ladies on the screen tonight, Ms. Russo and the team members, did a little video in a tribute to the Coach Jillian that Coach Kennedy mentioned tonight. She's also a nurse. A little tribute to Jillian for being a nurse during COVID and taking time out to coach the team. I also know the team members took it upon themselves to do a little tribute to a young lady that played Woburn youth hockey who injured her knee and had a devastating injury, and the girls rallied around her for that and showed that. Coach Kennedy mentioned the season this year. They opened up with, started out with a tie. They had only had 1 loss after that on their second game and went on to finish off with a great season. I believe, again, Ms. Russo, was it you that got the 2 goals to top it off this year? And I think before I take the microphone any longer, ladies, as members of the team, you're invited tonight. You're also able to speak. If you want to talk about the coaching, you want to talk about your season, perhaps some of the seniors want to chime in about what it's been like the last couple of seasons, and let the school committee know and the public know what you've gone through, ladies. Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't have done it without our coaches. I think, there's a lot to say about taking everything as we go. We've always been a team to plan it out a lot, but Coach Kay McCurtain and Jill all took it in stride, and they helped make the season the way it was.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing else from me, Madam Chair.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mulrennan. Anything else from, excuse me, the committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
On
Well,
4
thank
great
you,
years.
team, and thank you, Coach Kennedy, for coming. Truly, I'm very proud of you. You make Woburn very proud, and you're true champions, so thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so it looks like, if the public can't see at home, we have just about every single principal here that's going to be here present to support Dr. Crowley's presentation, which I called School Committee Endorsement on Superintendent's Plan to Implement DESE Regulations as amended on March 9th. As you know, remote learning will no longer count as legally as time on learning, and so we are being demanded legally to change to a full in-person return with virtual academy remaining for the rest of the school year. So Dr. Crowley is going to present to us his plan for same. Thank you.
Sure. So before I jump in, I want to just invite Bob, Wendy, and Mike to fill in gaps as needed. And I say this all the time. I'm presenting, but this is a team effort here. I want to thank the central office team. We had a great meeting today. and the principals are on this call. I asked for one volunteer, and everybody is on the call. And it's. I think we talked about that the constituent mentioned Woburn being Woburn, and I think this is a really amazing place to be in a really, really challenging time. And so, yeah, I would name names, but it would take me forever. So, that being said, I want to talk about our return to full in-person instruction. Before I get to the nitty-gritty, I want to acknowledge that we did send out a staff survey and had over 500 responses. And a lot of their concerns were about spacing, the 3 to 6 feet spacing, staffing concerns, are we going to have enough coverage, and the social emotional needs of kids and staff upon return. Some of the other areas were curriculum and assessment. How are we going to do this? What makes sense? As you may know, as I sit here tonight, MCAS is still at the state level an expectation. That may change, but again, that's a potential change. And then also the schedules. And so that being said, we're not going to get back into in-person without our staff. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about are district decisions, and every school has an implementation team that they've been working with, and families can expect school-specific information to be given to them tomorrow. So we may not be able to answer every single question about which hallway is a one-way hallway or things of that nature, but the schools, the principals are working with their implementation teams, and they've created a draft plan, which I'll share with the committee. Here we go. So the timeline. Tonight is March 16th, as we all know. We are going to push a survey and information out to families tomorrow. That deadline, I changed it. It should say March 22nd, not March 19th. Initially, we were going to close it Friday afternoon, but I wanted to give parents the weekend to kind of fully digest and analyze before they make a decision. And I'll speak to the survey. It's a brief survey because we really just need to know who's coming back. There's a million moving parts, and the devil's in the details. So we didn't want a survey that would be cumbersome to families. The April 5th deadline was established as a regulation by DESE for the elementary schools to return to full day in person, and that is the date that we are planning to return full in person for the Woburn Public Schools pre-K to 5. So again, pre-K to 5, April 5th, full day in person instruction. The week of April 5th, the middle schools are going to stay in the hybrid model, but they are going to have full days of school. And the rationale is that there's a bit of a transition that should occur. So on cohort A, they'll be in school Monday and Tuesday, full in-school days, including lunch. Wednesday will be a full remote day as is, and then cohort B will come back on Thursday and Friday for the 2 weeks leading up to April vacation. On April 26th, all schools in Woburn Public Schools are going to return full in person. So that's the high school, the middle school, and the elementary. The rationale for the high school bumping to April 26th is twofold. Primarily, it's academically driven. The semester ends, I think it's April 16th, which is the Friday just prior to vacation. And so it's a natural break in time. The other thing that then happens for quarter 4 is a lot of seniors, many seniors have internships and are off campus. And so that reduces the number of students that are in the building. It also simultaneously frees up teachers who are teaching seniors to do other duties as assigned to make sure the building and operations are supported. And so that was the rationale, and we fully support the return. Just to be clear, the DESE guidance is April 5th for the elementary schools. It's April 28th for middle schools, and the high school was not given a date. And yet here in Woburn, here are our dates. And so this was a great conversation that we had with the principals, with the leadership team, and also with our friends and colleagues with the WTA, the Teachers Association, Barbara Locke, president. And so this is an agreed upon plan, and we're excited to push it forward. So I'm going to give you a bit more information, what it looks like at each level. At the elementary level, again, April 5th is when we will be returning. I'm going to read left to right. So physical distancing, we're going to follow the DESE guidance of the 3-foot physical distancing. All the hallways are marked, the staggered use of shared spaces, and students will be using masks and staff. So again, I think we've been able to stay in the hybrid model for as long as we have because of all these mitigating factors, and we'll maintain that as we head into the full in-person. Virtual Academy is going to stay in place for the rest of this year. This is a mandate from DESE, which is fine. We have the staff, and people are doing reasonably well in the Virtual Academy. It will count as credit. I just want to answer that publicly. In other words, if the student stays in first grade Virtual Academy and passes, they're going to go to second grade next year. There's no differentiation between in-person and Virtual Academy. The teacher assignments, and this is again, it's a chicken and egg question. So once we get survey results, we're going to know more specifically, but there may be some shifting of teachers if families change from one model to the others. So specifically, if a student were in the Virtual Academy and wanted to come back in person, the teacher would absolutely change. And so not knowing exactly how many people are going to move, we cannot necessarily tell people that your teacher is going to be the same person. Am I articulating that well enough?
Yep, I think so.
Okay. Lunch. This has been a question mark that we've tried to wrestle with. The distance is, guidance from DESE is a 6-foot distance. And so Dave Dunkley is our facilities director. He's been out at every school working with principals to identify potential seating areas. And so it's, most schools can do 6 feet easily. Some schools, it's going to look different. So at the Harold Wyman, they're going to use desks in the cafeteria 6 feet apart, student desks. Some schools are going to use tables with partitions. So it's going to look, there's variation that's going to naturally occur because not all schools are the same exact size. Hopefully, the weather is sunny from now, April 5th till June. I think if we could put in a call somewhere to make that happen, that would be great. But if the weather cooperates, obviously we want to have kids outside eating and playing as much as possible. As a quarantine, again, the COVID is not over. We know that. And so we are thinking about this. And so the way at the elementary level we've thought about it is asynchronous work would be provided and a daily check-in would be part of any quarantine that would have to occur. And that daily check-in probably would be someone from that school, but it may not be that teacher because their teacher is teaching all of the other kids. So it would be a grade level check-in. So someone that would be assigned to be the grade 2 person to check in with students who would be on quarantine. We don't want to let kids not have some kind of daily access. And as far as transportation goes, DESE provided new guidance, a few weeks ago, and essentially they changed the regulations. So you have to wear a mask. Windows should be at least 2 inches down, open. Students at the elementary level will be assigned a seat. But there's no limit to the number of kids that can be on a bus. And so again, to be clear, with parents, if you're opting to come back in school and send your child on a bus, we'll follow up with a survey so that you know, or they know what's happening. But there's going to be certainly more students on a bus than there are currently. The middle school, again, left to right, some of this is the same, but the physical distancing is exactly the same. The number of, I can tell you, and I'll point to it maybe if we get to the school-specific plans, but I looked at the Joyce plan earlier today, and for example, the sixth grade is going to be released at different times, so it'll be staggered release times, so it won't be all the kids spilling out into the hallway at one time. So these are the kind of details that still need to get fleshed out, but that's the thinking, and the principals and their implementation teams deserve a great deal of credit to kind of get to this point so quickly. The virtual academy will remain the same for the middle schools. The difference here is that for the middle and high school, if students are opting to come back in from virtual academy, we're going to have them stay in virtual academy till April 16th, so to finish term 3 and then come back in versus come back prior to term 3 ending. So that, again, there's a natural break for people that are opting to make that switch. The phased approach is what I articulated earlier, hopefully well enough that was understood. But again, it's 2 weeks of extended, full day in your cohort model, and then coming back full in person on Monday the 26th. And the 28th is just a reminder to myself that that was the date set by DESE, so we are ahead of DESE's guidance on that. The lunch, the tables will be divided. I think I've been watching Tom Quayle here at the Joyce since last maybe July or August, walk around with rulers and tape measures and yardsticks. And so there'll be, there's cubicles or partitions that will separate students. And again, there'll be some flexibility, certainly, to eat outside as possible, and as much as possible. The quarantine, asynchronous work, as you can see, teachers are going to be available at least one day per week after school, which is as normal. And we're working out some of the more the nuanced details here. But again, I don't want the school committee or anyone listening to think that we hadn't thought about, geez, what would happen if we have to go into quarantine. So in certain classes. And again, the transportation is the same. So we will ask parents at some point to commit whether they want a bus so that we can set up the routes accordingly. High school, again, physical distancing, the same as the other two levels. The VA can stay. If they opt to come back in, the classes may not totally be aligned. And so Ms. Callahan's on the call. She can speak to that if that's a question people have. The quarantine, again, is something that we're working out the details, but asynchronous work or Google Classroom access, etc., is the avenue that we're pursuing. The 6 feet at lunch, I should have said it earlier. To begin with, the lunch is going to be a bagged lunch. So students won't be lining up. There'll be distribution points, so students can just grab a lunch and go to their assigned area. And the transportation remains similar to the DESE guidance. And so those are the dates. Those are the main categories, if you will. Our plan is to send out information to families tomorrow, probably early afternoon. And I'm gonna pull it up momentarily. It's a draft a plan. It will include building-specific information. the survey that we're going to send out is only if you're going to change models. So in other words, we're trying to limit the number of responses that we need to make decisions. So let me be specific. If you're in the hybrid model, our default is if you don't respond to the survey, you're going to get pushed into full in-person. Okay, so only if you want to switch do you fill out the survey. And we're doing this because we need to get the results back quickly so that we can make staffing decisions and roster changes and all of, Jen Judkins heard the technology, they have to create class rosters. There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes to make this go. And so the survey is very limited. As I say, it will be released tomorrow. It is binding because we have to know who's coming, and we'll keep it open until Monday. The Virtual Academy exists, so if people want to stay in the Virtual Academy, they don't need to fill out a survey. They just remain in that model. Once the parents have this plan, I'd encourage them to contact the building principal or administrator with any school-specific questions that they have. Again, all the principals are here. Thank you for that, because they know their schools better than we do, and what hallway people go in and what door people go out. And so they and their teams have been working to try to put this back together. And so that being said, the additional survey would be once we know who's coming, we're going to have to survey again about transportation and things of that nature. But our correspondence with families will be ongoing. The plans are in a draft form right now, and I'll show you very quickly what I'm alluding to. So this is it's an 8-page document that we will be pushing out tomorrow with the rationale and statements and so forth about our plan and time on learning and so forth. But here is what you'll find or see in these plans is specific school-specific plans. It's probably too small for people to see, I understand it. And so parents can just click links and be able to see what the full in-person plan would look like at their own specific school. So I picked on the Malcolm White. I know the principal, Rob Nickerson, is on this call as well. They'd be able to look and see what the plan at the Malcolm White return to school will look like. So that is, in a nutshell, a lot of planning and pretty quickly. And so one of the things that we're saying when we push this out to the to all of our families is that these plans especially are subject to change as the building implementation teams meet and they work out the kinks. And, we want to make sure that we're doing it right, and I think that the commitment is there from the teachers and from the administrators to make this happen. So I will open it up to questions.
We can ask you questions?
Sure.
Okay. Dr. Wells.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank the administration.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to thank the administration for this, and also thank the work that you've done with our teachers and our staff, because as we see throughout in the newspaper, all the other consternations that are going on throughout the Commonwealth, and I think it just reiterates the approach you've taken with the dialogue with the teachers and the support staff to get this plan in place the way it is without rumblings in the paper like we see in other communities. So it's a teamwork effort, and I think you've demonstrated that throughout the whole process. And it's great that we're going back because the students need it, and I think we need to start to return to normality. With that said, I had a couple of questions. So one is, I'm sure you're all aware of certain families where it's been difficult to communicate with them, and they're not participating. Has a plan been put in place to make sure they know what their children will be doing the days you start these new programs, so that they're not sitting at home turning on the computer and nothing's there.
Yeah, Mike, you want to talk to that?
Yeah, so we've had a number of engagement seminars, so to speak,
Yeah.
where we've reached out to families and had them come in and to try to find out what the breakdown is
Yeah.
between, like, why aren't some of these things happening. Sometimes it's parental control, so to speak, like with particularly with older students, and sometimes it's been technology barriers and language barriers. We do know who those students are, and so we will be able to reach out and identify at the school level, what the individual preferences are going to be. And certainly, when April 5th comes, it's going to be pretty fast that if a student's not in attendance, that we're going to be providing outreach to find out why.
Okay, that's good.
And all of the once we go back to April 5th, all of our former attendance standards now come back into play. Yep.
Okay, good. You mentioned about quarantine days and so forth, but if their students are sick, then it would just be a regular, like, traditional sick day where they wouldn't be expected to sign in. Would the parents
Correct.
call and say they're sick today, we're not quarantining or something like that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Quarantine, I guess would be the school nurse saying,
Okay.
you need to be out.
Okay. You mentioned about the phased approach. You talked about it, but maybe explain the rationale. Was it educational, organizational, or both? What's the idea behind that?
So I'm gonna actually give Wendy Sprague the opportunity, because it's her nugget.
Thanks. So in meeting with our union
Yep.
members, there was concern about such a large number of students coming back, especially around lunch.
Mhm.
So knowing that we didn't have to meet the April 5th deadline for the middle schools, I suggested just extending the current day for those 2 weeks so they could work through any of those concerns, so they would be comfortable on the 26th, that everything was worked out and we could safely have everybody back.
That's good. That's a logical approach, and I think parents can understand that. It just wasn't a little clear.
Sure, yeah, thank you.
And then, this might be to the high school, but in terms of now when the high school students come back, will they have their groups and clubs, or are they going to continue to do those virtually or in person? Maybe.
So our intent, I'll let Jess answer this, but our intent, I believe, is to have after-school activities. Ms. Callahan, do you want to weigh in on that?
Could she hear them?
So I think I do want to emphasize that they've been happening all year, albeit virtually or
Right.
outside
Right.
or off-site. And so, wherever it is safe, students or clubs may be able to meet in groups in person, but still recommending that they do meet virtually whenever possible, just to reduce contact. Because our goal is to have students in class. And we've seen from teams and things like that that is when you can't really control a lot of the contact from student to student. So I'm going to continue to follow the DESE guidelines in relation to things like band and chorus and performances. Our step team, our dance team, and obviously our athletic teams. The EEA is very specific, so when I follow all of those guidelines, and when there aren't any, I contact the Board of Health to work through each scenario. But some events have already been happening, like Best Buddies. We had a student-run play. It was virtual. So, we're just making sure that it's safe and regulated and supervised.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then finally, and I'm sure this is your plan also, is to, you gave us an example of using your board where you watch to see red, green, and things, outbreaks and so forth. So you will continue that process once the students are back in school too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The monitoring of
Yeah.
the data dashboard?
Yeah.
Yes, we will. Yeah.
Right, and so parents will be, assured that you're still watching that for each individual school and classroom, so action will be taken as you think is appropriate.
Yes.
Okay, good. Good luck.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Mr. Lipset.
Just a few questions. In terms of busing, you said there's going to be a separate transportation survey sent out.
Yes.
So even if a student is currently in hybrid but not taking the bus and they want to switch to the bus, that is something that parents will have.
That will be
options
forthcoming,
for.
yes.
Okay, great. And the the constituent who did public comment tonight mentioned ventilation. The ventilation studies that we did took into account the possibility of full students coming back at 3 feet in terms of what they were recommending as well.
Yes, they absolutely did.
Great. Actually, sort of also to follow up on Dr. Wells' point, if we do see, and we see numbers trending down, and we hope that that's the trend that continues. If for whatever reason we do see a major spike down the line this school year, do we have an understanding of what our options are given new DESI regulations? And I realize that's a difficult question, but do we have the option?
Well, I think if I'm hearing the question correctly, if there were a significant spike at one school, for example, I don't have the ability anymore to just close a school, independently. But I can contact DESI and make a case and get that to occur.
Okay. All right. Just to follow up quickly on Virtual Academy. My understanding from what your presentation is, we certainly can't guarantee any kind of staff or teacher continuity without knowing numbers. If numbers stay mostly where they are now, does that make it far more likely that students in Virtual Academy will be able to keep their teacher if they remain in Virtual Academy?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Just because I know, that's been a source of a lot of change as well, and I want to make sure that wherever we can have that continuity, we do.
Yeah, if we could, listen,
it's
better for everybody.
There's lots of stuff that's out of the hands.
Right, yeah.
And just one more. So in the event that we do have a positive case in a school or in a classroom, what's the distance that we're going to be using going forward for contact tracing and for quarantine purposes? Are we going to be going with 6 feet? Are we going to be going with 3 feet? And what's the rationale if there's a change?
Bob, you want to take
Sure,
that?
absolutely. We will go with 3 feet for the contact tracing, and essentially, if you're sitting in a classroom, it's 3 feet to 3 feet. So the four students are on the positive, and probably, as one of the nurses was saying this week, diagonally as well. So it will be quite a restrictive close contact standard.
I understand. I know that the guidelines have changed in terms of seat spacing. I'm concerned, and I think would be more in favor of a wider approach for the sake of caution. If we have a positive case in a classroom, 6 feet has been our standard. I don't necessarily see the evidence that would support a shift from that.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I misspoke. It would be absolutely the 3 feet for the students sitting in that classroom, but essentially it's going to be the 3 feet and then another 3 feet. So it's going to be the six feet.
Okay. So if a student is within 2 desks of a student who has a positive case,
yes,
that would result in a quarantine or a
unless for some reason those standards are changed.
Okay.
At the CDC level and the state level, becoming more restrictive. But
okay,
it is going to be the 6 feet circumference,
okay,
if you will, which probably takes into account the students front, back, side, and most likely diagonally as well.
okay. I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
sorry.
No,
I
that's
didn't
fine.
use the right words.
Not a problem. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Any more, Mrs. Chisholm and Mr.
For the
Kissel?
remainder of the school year, lunch will still continue to be free?
Yes.
For students?
Yeah,
that
so
the
lunch,
school-
lunch is free for the rest of this year for all students, as well as into the summer, throughout the summer. It's been continued.
Just want to make sure that.
So we'll be able to provide free breakfast and lunch to our students.
Yes.
Okay, and then the Chromebooks that have been home, are they going to be bringing them to school, or should they remain at home in case there is a quarantine, or?
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
For right now, the Chromebooks are going to stay with the students because we don't know exactly where we're headed. That being said, Jen Judkins has talked about at some point in May, mid to late May, trying to get Chromebooks back so that we can inventory and go from there. But for right now, nothing changes.
Okay, all right, and I mean, it just ends up to be like a 2-week educational difference, because we get the April vacation in between, so people that think it's, you know, like a month, it really isn't gonna be. We get the April vacation in between the 5th and the kids coming back, so. It's not all that crazy, but we're heading in the right direction, I'm glad to see them coming back. That's it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Chisholm. Mr. Kissel.
The, on the lunch, because that was one of my questions about the free, is it the single item in the bag? I don't know who had that answer. Is it just the same exact lunch for everybody? Or is it like, here, pick between these lunches, and they grab it and go sit down somewhere?
There'll be a couple of options on the brown bag lunch. So it will vary from school to school, like where the lunches will be when they come into the cafeteria, but they'll have a couple of options. It won't be a universal lunch for everybody.
And how are we handling like allergies? I'm assuming kids were getting lunch before and they knew, what they could get.
Yeah, if we're aware of any special allergies, we'll immediately take action on that, but it hasn't been an issue so far.
On the hybrid day, when they're in school, you're going full day, or whatever the time frame's going to be. You're extending it.
At the middle schools.
The middle schools, yes. So on the hybrid stay-home days, are those staying whatever time frame they are, or are they also being extended the days that they're home? Right?
Wednesday.
Oh, well, the Wednesday will be
Wednesday stays the same.
the regular, at the middle schools will be the current schedule on that remote day. And on the Thursdays, it will be their regular remote hybrid schedule.
Okay, so we're not extending that, because they're not going back till whatever date. Are we talking before that?
It'd be 4 classes, or 4 days, sorry. 4 days for each cohort.
Sure. But the middle schools, there's a delay of them going back. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So in that 2 weeks, are we extending their?
So during those 2
Yeah.
weeks, each of the cohorts, when it's their cohort day, will come to school for a full day.
Right, but their hybrid days are staying the
Will
same
remain
time.
the way they are.
Okay, that's what I was saying. So you're not extending that by
Yeah.
more time on the computer.
Not at this time, but if we have a conversation and that
Okay.
happens, then that will happen.
And maybe it's just the way I was reading it, and I'm closest to the screen, so maybe I was blinded. On your binding survey page, I don't know if you can pull it up, it doesn't even matter. It says fill out only, big only, if you would like your student to change learning models.
Right.
That's based, no, I understood what it read.
Right.
My question is, based on what we're telling them they now have to be in, default, if they want it to be different than the default. I think when I read it quick, my first thought was, you're going to get parents that are going to read it and say, yeah, I want them to be different than what they were doing, or, you know what I mean? It sounded like it was this little confusion, as opposed to, if you would like your student to change learning models from what we've chosen, the school has decided the new model is. You know what I mean? Because you're going to get parents that are
Like
saying,
it's an open-ended opinion question versus,
That's only if you don't read the paragraph.
well, that's,
Yeah.
you're going to get.
Okay.
People read the big words, and then they're going to,
We'll try to make it as clear as possible on the document. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
because someone's going to say, my
Right.
kid's in hybrid right now. Yeah, I wanted to go back full remote, so I should fill this out.
Right.
But they don't have to, because it's a default.
It's anticipated that anyone in hybrid who doesn't respond is going back full.
Yeah.
If anybody does respond, they'll still respond to what they were wanting to do anyhow, so it's actually skewness.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was just a little circles they're filling
Yeah.
out. I think that's all I have for now. Yep, all set, thanks.
any further questions for, yes, Ms. Mulrennan?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Madam Chairperson. Looking up at the screen here, I see a lot of the principals here. I just want to commend them and their staff for some awesome fire drills. Most recently, all the schools are still conducting fire drills, so thank you for that. Also, tonight's presentation, Dr. Crowley, very important information. I didn't know if you could get it out on the website right away tomorrow as well to show the importance of these surveys, upcoming surveys. And obviously, what did you say, it's going to be 8 pages or 30 pages? Or?
Well, no, the survey's brief.
But the explanation
but
is long.
We're trying to be thorough.
Okay.
And we will put the link on the website. I'm going to make a phone call. It'll go out on email and a text.
Great. And also, when you, I know, Mr. Nickerson, you picked up on the Malcolm White School, Dr. Crowley, and very important that if parents, obviously there's going to be some issues and some concerns and questions, but I don't believe I saw Mr. Dickinson's email on his page. Maybe I missed it, but obviously that's an important piece that you want to make sure the parents know to contact each individual school to get their information that they need. And again, you stressed it tonight, Dr. Crowley, as well, that first time we're seeing it, obviously the people on the screen up there put an awful lot of work in it. People in this room put a lot of work in it. Still a draft. For all we know, being Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, you can come in the office tomorrow morning and get a new DESE update. But I think it's important that, as Dr. Wells indicated, a lot of work's been put into this. Woburn is, I think we're far ahead of anybody else nearby. And I'm proud to see this approach. As Ms. Chisholm said, there'll be a gap. There's going to be a little bit of difference in timing, but I think to answer the young lady that wrote us in tonight, getting these kids back in the buildings safely and quickly as we can, I think this is a good plan, and look forward to see it get implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mulrennan. Oh, yes, Dr. Wells.
Are we continuing, or is the state or the city continuing to subsidize the testing of students and staff going forward?
Yeah, so the question is staff testing on Fridays, and
But didn't they open it up to students too?
Residents, yeah.
Yes.
So the answer is yes. I had a meeting, and I don't know if I mentioned it. I know I didn't mention that I had a meeting today, but with the mayor. But he's committed to doing that. The other part is that the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA have been great partners with us throughout. And so once we pivot back into this full in-person, we're hoping to absorb some of their staff into to help support us, because again, the staffing side, we're going to need help with cafeteria, lunch, recess, etc. And so that's been a great success and a great partnership, and supported by the city. So
the state had mentioned that we should reach out to our partners, so I'm glad you did that. And then the only other suggestion is maybe you want to consider, and you're probably already going to do it anyways, but people that change what they're doing, send them a letter or an email telling them that you have been changed or something, because otherwise they'll be calling you and emailing you.
Yeah, so I don't know where we'd be without Jen Judkins.
Yeah.
So when people, without a lot of, with the whole team, but there's a way to automatically trigger, depending on what you choose, it will send things to families.
That's what parents are going to worry about, that, I filled this out, but somebody didn't see it, and so forth. So that's great.
And then actually, Dr. Wells, to your earlier comment, and Dr. Baldessari responded to it, but it's an amazing tribute to our principal. They know who the kids in their buildings are, and it doesn't matter the size of the school. I mean, if you ask any of the principals at the high school about a student, they can tell you where they live, how they get to school, what they like to eat for lunch, and so it really, and down to the elementary schools, it's just we're not letting kids fall through the cracks.
Mr. Mulrennan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess to Bob over there, I know the concern is probably going to come up again, Bob, as far as our air circulation. I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but if you could just emphasize again what we've done thus far in all of our buildings. I know around here we have some air scrubbers, air cleaners in this room in particular. We're talking about having the students eating outside, separating them in different common areas for lunch and different activities. But if you just want to, again, because the concern is going to be the distancing and the air quality, and just emphasize what we've done up to this point and what we may have to do in the future.
Sure. So as you might remember, in late summer, August, we had a comprehensive report done on all of the schools that came back with some recommendations we immediately jumped on. We have maintained all of those systems, all of those controls throughout, and will continue. We have acquired air purifiers and placed them strategically in certain rooms that don't have windows. And Dave Dunkley and his staff have done an absolutely great job in maintaining all of the HVAC throughout the building. So he is prepared. He feels that we are ready to go come April 5, and we'll continue to maintain everything in monitor.
Thank you for that update, appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Mulrennan. Ms. Cormier?
Yes, just a couple questions. So we have testing, we have the in-person the testing now, the rapid testing, and
Yeah.
then vaccination. We're working on that.
Yes.
One of the things that I found confusing when this first came out from DESE was that remote wasn't going to count anymore. But obviously, we're doing the virtual academy still. So when they say that, they're talking, right, just for my own and for everybody else out there who may find this confusing, it's that districts can't offer full remote, right? So for the parents who want their kids to still go virtual, that is still an option. It still counts as learning, right? But it's just that the district itself cannot be full remote, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And it is confusing.
Thank you. That makes you feel better. That's all.
Okay. Any further?
I just had
Oh,
one
I'm sorry,
very,
Mr.
very
Wicks.
quick follow-up to what Dr. Wells and Ms. Cormier just
Everyone
mentioned.
lifts their pens, and so I don't know if they're lifting their pen or pointing.
It's very authoritative. We're still continuing pool testing. Is that also correct?
Sorry?
Pool testing in schools, is that going to continue?
We're not doing pool testing right now.
Never mind.
We had talked about it before, though, right?
Yeah.
Talking with you, chemical?
Yeah, dipping your toe in.
No, we're doing the Avid Binex
Yeah, the
today.
pool at the high school, we're going to be testing that.
On the roof.
Yeah.
Chris, you're in charge of that.
Yeah.
Pool testing? I was at home. Shake it, look at it.
I'm not, okay. My only question was, just because we had a question about the social emotional well-being of kids tonight, a comment about that. I was wondering if anyone would like to elaborate on how they're envisioning how to catch those kids that might be, just having a tough time, and how to ease their transition.
Yeah, so Dr. Baldessari, I also, I'll turn it over to you in a moment, but I think Rosemary Donovan may still be on this call as well. So if you want to start, Mike, I saw her name pop up earlier. She may not be here anymore, so feel free
She's
to.
texting me, so
Yeah.
she's watching.
All right. Yeah, telling you what to say.
Well, Rosemary and I held brainstorming sessions with all of the district's guidance counselors, adjustment counselors, and social workers. And over 3, 4, 5 sessions, we tried to think about.
Earlier, she may not be here.
I'm here.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah. Rosemary, jump in.
I don't know if you can hear me. I'm here.
Yeah, we can hear you. Mike's
Can you hear me,
kind of.
Rosemary? She can. So what we did was, and I'll have Rosemary talk in just a moment, is we asked the clinicians to brainstorm all of the aspects of returning. Like, what are the things that we need to think about? We do have concerns, as you could hear from the passage that Mrs. Crowley read this evening.
Rosemary, can you mute, please?
What we did was, and I'll have Rosemary talk.
Oh, there's like, she's listening to the meeting.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
It's delayed, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
There
No,
we go.
that's totally fine.
So we brainstormed all the aspects, of kids returning. Anxiety being really a huge concern, because we're hearing that from our clinicians for our kids who are here, and we're also hearing it from our outside providers. And so what we did was we drafted a document of really, it's 10 to 20 things that we're asking principals to consider when they're making their plans. And some things are very simple, like putting the desks back in the classrooms now and having those desks labeled with the students' names, so that when the kids are in the hybrid, they can see that very soon I'm going to have more peers here, and this is where they're going to be sitting. We have more elaborate plans, like how we're going to check in with our students, the things that we're going to ask them when they return, to try to identify what their needs are while they are there. And also communicating with parents about what anxiety looks like and what to do about anxiety in their students when we come back. For a lot of our kids on April 5th, this is going to be like the first day of school all over again, walking into a room where you don't know who's in your class, and you don't know who your friends are. And there's just a lot of different aspects of that we looked at. We've talked about having a virtual open house and also in-person open houses for students who have yet to step foot into our schools, so that they can come into the school, they can walk the school, see where the gym is, see where the cafeteria is, see what the outside play structures look like, see what their classroom looks like with nobody in it, so they can be comfortable when they come to school for potentially the first time for our kids who are in virtual academy. We talked about asking principals to focus on re-engagement as a first step and worrying about the academics as a second step, so that kids can have an opportunity to build relationships with peers who they have not yet met. Some kids who are coming from virtual may be building a relationship with a teacher who they have not yet met. Or if you think about our, some of our kindergartners who might be coming have never even stepped foot inside of a public school as of this time. We talked about outlets for staff, because with the increase in student population, the increase of kids in their classroom, the extension to a full day, and potentially kids whose habits have been broken, that teachers could also be experiencing stress or anxiety. So things that we can do for our teachers to try to keep them connected and keep them engaged and keep them feeling good about their work. The list is pretty long. We've asked them all to consider these things, and it can actually grow between now and April 5th. Our clinicians are working with Rosemary in the TV studio to make some videos to send to parents, if I haven't said that. And I would like for Rosemary to have an opportunity to comment, because I'm sure I'm missing so much more. If you could hear me, Rosemary, we're looking for you.
Dr. Baldessari, just to clarify, when you say clinician, you mean the school adjustment counselors?
Adjustment counselors,
yep.
And also social workers in our programs.
Oh, okay.
But the guidance counselors at the middle and high schools are also involved in this endeavor. Okay. So it's a team of about 25 different counselor positions, and sometimes we refer to them all as clinicians. So.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure.
Interchangeable.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know if Ms. Donovan wants
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, no, I think, Mike, you did a great job. I think you covered pretty much everything. We have met. We've had about 5 different meetings, and today you sent out a synopsis of all of those thoughts, and I sent that out to the 25 people you were discussing with, and I think you did a great job. I think the videos for the parents are going to be exceptional. So I think that, I think once those are done, that's going to be a real asset for us to have for parents.
And if I can add, I did get a message a couple of days ago from Interface, and Interface let us know that they are inundated with referrals. A process that could have taken 5 days before is now taking up to 4 weeks, because on the outside of school, everybody is looking, parents are looking for ways to handle really difficult situations with their kids. So we are anticipating an uptick in the need for our counselors when the kids come back. So we may be suspending the social emotional learning lessons in classrooms that we do to provide our adjustment counselors time to be working with kids one-on-one and in small groups.
Dr. Baldessari, I'm so glad I asked.
Yeah.
That was a lot more information than I was anticipating. And just to clarify, if I'm a kindergarten parent and I'm thinking about moving to the full in person,
yeah.
I could have access to a sort of at least a small transition,
yes.
which is, I think that's really important for the public to know. That's
it's
amazing.
And we have to do our own outreach. Folks may reach out to us and say, hey, I'm really concerned about my son or my daughter. And that's why we made this investment in this part of the organization, so that we can be there to have kids move hopefully from one situation to another as smoothly as possible, so that there's no interruption in learning.
So if a parent is having a difficult time with the child, what should they do?
I would say that the adjustment counselor at their school is a great first point of contact.
Okay.
Rosemary and I, when we get messages and emails and calls from people all the time that sometimes we have to field, and other times we refer to the down the proper channels so that it gets immediately handled. But yes.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Cormier.
Sorry, just one more question. Thinking about that and the supervised learning centers, with the parents whose children are currently staying, say, at the YMCA till 4 or 5 p.m., when we go back full in person, we won't have the supervised learning centers, so it hasn't been mentioned yet, so I'm assuming after-school care, not...
So we're working with the YMCA and the club to figure out how to bring that right back into the schools.
Excellent, okay.
So recognizing that families work.
So that'll be part of the school-based plans?
Well, I don't know if it'll be a school-based plan, but it's a conversation,
we're
an
talking about
ongoing
it.
conversation. I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, so we have a meeting every Wednesday. Actually, I think that you've joined us many times, right? So we have had programs running in the schools already. The conversation that particularly Seth and is going to have with us is the potential for, changing the locations so that the boys club and the YMCA are not in the same sites at the same time, so we have more accessible after-school program for our kids.
Great, excellent. And that would ideally start
April 5th.
April 5th. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Mulrennan?
Thank you. Mike, just quickly, to anyone, the video you speak of, is there any chance between Adriana and Aaron they can kind of get in different languages, or at least something on the screen that if parents wanted it in a different language, how they could get the same information?
We've actually discussed that, and so we do have, one of the things about being videoed and putting your video out there is our staff have to want to do it. And we do have bilingual counselors who can help us. We also have, as you know, Adriana, and we also have translators. So we are looking at ways of making sure that this is accessible by our families who are not English speaking.
Great, thank you. I think to the superintendent, to any one of the principals, maybe if you could just take a moment and maybe tell us about some of the challenges that they saw coming from the school and how it's going to be addressed coming April 5th or later. You just want to pick out a principal you want to pick on, Dr. Crowley? Just curious what's going on in the buildings and kind of explain what they're going to do. I don't think you get the question. But what would be a building challenge that a principal has to deal with to do all this? If they want to share with us, besides what they've already been practicing, all what they're doing.
Yeah. That's why they have a handout for each school.
Yeah, just move forward with that.
Yeah.
Just didn't want anybody to get lost.
I understand the principals are here.
Yeah.
And,
Actually, you know what? I think Rob Nickerson will stick with the Malcolm White at April 5th. Just briefly, Rob, what might be some of the challenges coming back?
Well, they're numerous, to say the least. So when you ask for brevity in this, I will do my best. The simple fact of doubling essentially the number of students in the building while maintaining all of the safety protocols that we've established and now adapted to meet the needs of the increased student population on any given day. So something as simple as how many kids can line up to wait to come into the building in the morning, or processing them through the lobby or through the hallways in order to get to their classes without having big clumps of kids that get stuck, or slowly processed through a doorway in the hall. So you want to make sure that kids are coming in from numerous access points so that you don't have those moments that happen like that. Scheduling things like access to the bathroom. Of course, students will have regular access to the bathroom if they ask their teacher, but to have scheduled class times to access a bathroom to cut down on the number of kids that are in there at any given time. Where snack will actually take place. Whenever possible, of course, we'll do it outside because you can't necessarily have all the kids with their mask off at feet in a classroom. Recreating a schedule from the from the ground up, as if it were a September as opposed to an April. So we're dismantling teacher schedules, student schedules, and reassembling them essentially on the fly, which is no small undertaking, to say the least. And that leads into a lot of the social emotional stuff, certainly for the students, also for the staff that we were referring to before. I'm sure I'm missing a lot, but in the sake of trying to be somewhat brief, I can just leave it there for now, unless there's specific questions.
Thank you.
No, that was helpful.
Thank
you, Mike.
Yeah.
I actually appreciate it. I didn't even think of those things.
It actually is the complexity of what we're doing is really, and the level of like you ask a question and we can, that people have been thoughtful about it, so.
Yes, actually, does anyone need
I'd
the
like to add
principals?
to that from the social emotional learning perspective. Rob mentioned it, the teachers and their social emotional well-being is also being very much thought about, and we're trying to get some, great plans going to make sure that we're supporting them as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Actually, can we dismiss the principals? Does anyone need them? I feel like we're taking
Yeah.
and their families.
What do we do with this? Just say yes?
Yeah, we're just like,
I thought the guidance was this is the norm, so there's no
Yes.
action.
You don't need a
required.
vote.
that's why I called an endorsement, just to back
Okay,
up the
that's fine.
superintendent.
Yep.
But does anyone need the principals? I feel like
Well,
we're
I
taking
just
care
would
of your
like-
family.
I just want to tell
Unless
Mr.
Mr.
Martin, he didn't send his cutest little kid away.
No,
I mean,
I-
he was just, he absolutely did a great job, and I think it's nice that they're already involved and wanting to watch school committee, so I think that's great. So-
Did you hear that, Mr. Martin? Miss Chisholm voted your son
child,
cutest kid
Yeah, yep.
in the world.
So
You just
involved.
kid? Okay, you should have saw him about 5 minutes. He puts on a good show when he has to. I will let him know, and I will.
Just
I will
like
let
his
him know.
father.
Exactly. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
But-
Thank you all for being here.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we might need to keep Ms. Callanan for the AP testing issue.
Thank you.
Yes.
But if we don't need the principals in majority except for
Yes.
the other issue, I think we can let them go. Is that okay?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
their
think
families are- they're
at
at
this
their homes.
point, I don't know if you heard, Ms. Crowley, thank you all for your time, with the exception of Ms. Callanan.
Well, we're
She has to
thanking
stay
her. She has to stay.
We're not thanking them.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little tired.
You're missing a comma.
Right.
Thank you so much for coming.
We'll see you in the morning.
I'm sorry,
I
Mrs.
just have two
Chisholm.
quick questions.
Wow, they went fast,
I mean,
huh?
one of the things is the tours, you'd like to say you could put those like on the websites of parents that they might feel insecure and actually ask them to come in. But at the same time, I think that's a real safety issue. And I know that the police have talked about that before. You don't want somebody to say, well, this is where 4th grade goes, and blah, blah, blah. If you have a parent that has an issue, so I think we have to be a little careful with trying to promote putting those tours out there to everybody virtually. If somebody wants to go to a building and they're a parent and they get screened and they come in.
Oh, right.
But, just to say, on the white school, this is the white school, this is where the kids go to play, this is where, I just don't think that that's something we can do. And it's odd to say that, okay, these kids have to be careful going in and out, but you watch at the airports where people are spaced out to get on, and then all of a sudden they get on this big plane and there's 180 of them sitting 6 across. So it's just different how this world is putting us jumping through hoops to get kids back, but yet life goes on. So hopefully it'll work and we'll all be back and
Thank
everything
you,
will go
Mrs.
forward.
Chisholm.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to suspend the regular order of business so we can deal with the issue of the AP testing for this year.
Yes, I have. Okay, any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes. We will now hear from Mr. Lipset on minutes from his curriculum subcommittee.
Yes, Madam Chair, we met yesterday, Monday, March 15th at 3:30 p.m. In attendance were myself, Mr. Kissel, Dr. Wells, Ms. Sprague, Ms. Callanan, and Ms. Donovan. And we met to discuss a proposal from Ms. Callanan and Ms. Donovan to change, to lift our requirement that students who are enrolled in AP courses take the AP test for this year only. And I'd like to just invite Ms. Callanan to talk a little bit about that.
Thank you for entertaining this evening. I appreciate it. And the main reason for the request to lift this requirement just for this year is around social and emotional well-being of students. I've made other decisions too. We did not have mid-year exams. We are not having final exams. But there is still a lot of testing that will take place, for presumably the MCAS for 2 grades, as well as AP exams for those students that do participate, that feel that they're in a good space to do so and can put their best foot forward, as well as the seal of biliteracy, which is happening, and the access testing, which is happening. So I don't want to waste, what otherwise could be class time in positioning students to be in the best place where they can be in terms of their grades in school. if they don't feel like they're prepared this year social emotionally to take the AP exam. So it's just a request for a 1-year waiver to that requirement.
Okay.
And the subcommittee did vote 3 to nothing to advance this to the full committee. So I'd like to make a motion that the committee adopt a 1-year lifting of the requirement for students who are enrolled in AP courses to take the AP test.
Okay.
Second the motion, on the motion.
On the motion,
Yeah, I support this because, as we all know, the AP test does not count towards the student's grade. This is really something to help them, so if they're in discussion with their families and think it's not in the best interest of their student to do it, I don't have a problem with it. So I think, we allow the students and the families to make a decision. And if they think that they want to take it, they can, because we're still providing that opportunity. So I think this is probably in the best interest.
thank you, Dr. Wells. Mr. Kissel?
Maybe just a slight amendment on the wording. Instead of a year, the rest of this year.
Yes, this school year. Yes.
Okay, but you
Thank you.
mentioned a year, I just wouldn't want it to.
No, absolutely.
Thank you. Clarification. So for the school year 20 to 21. Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? Ms. Cormier, did you
Has
have
it
a
always
question?
been required that you take the test?
Yes.
I took the course and I never took the test because
Now, don't say it.
reasons.
You're coming after us.
It was 20 years ago, and I'll take it now if you want me to, I'm just saying. I didn't need to, so I didn't.
Okay, so everyone understands it's to just lift the mandate.
Right, but
on
they
the
still
AP.
can take it should
They
they
can
feel
take it if they want.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0. Ms. Callahan, thank you so much for the kind consideration of the social emotional well-being of our students. And we know that you have one of the most complex jobs in this whole turning school into full in person, so you always have our support. Thank you.
Thank you
Yep.
to everybody. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Have a nice night.
Thank you, Jess.
And Madam Chair, before I conclude the minutes, I also just wanted to add that the parent inquiry that you sent along regarding sex education,
Yes.
I am forwarding that along to the curriculum team to take a look at and just to follow up on that.
Thank you. Thank you
Was
very
that
much.
just sent to the subcommittee? Because I saw that in
Yes,
minutes meetings. Okay.
or I don't know how you.
Yeah, I had a constituent question, not a parent question about our sexual education, and so I sent it to curriculum, and he's going to forward it on to the proper people. Great. Thank you.
Correspondence.
And we adjourned at 3:45.
We got to move back in.
Okay, so can I have a motion to move back to the regular order of business?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, back to the regular order of business. I had put on that we will vote to endorse the superintendent's plan. We don't have the authority to vote to approve it. We are not approving it. The default is all in person, but I didn't know if someone wanted to make that motion.
I'll make a motion that we thank the administration, the staff, the teachers, and everybody, and the parents for doing this. I think this is a big step forward, back to normalcy, and I think it's appropriate this time we thank everybody for their endeavors and hope for success.
Okay. I have a motion of gratitude.
Yeah,
Any?
that's what it is.
Any? I will say that we kind of lost the authority to collective bargain
Right.
with the teachers, but the teachers were just
Lost you.
incredibly collaborative.
Yeah.
And we gained 2 days reopening schools, and we gained this really amazing commitment from our staff that I deeply appreciate.
Mrs. Crowley, can I comment?
Yes, of
I
course.
just want to say that, like, the gratitude, Dr. Wells, this, like, what, I just want to say what happened recently with this April 5th and this going so smooth is not just a result of what's taken place over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
This is strong leadership, committee support, and partnership and collaboration with the WTA going all the way back to August. And I think that the communication that the superintendents had and the the honesty about our situation every single time that we met has led us to this point where we're doing something that a lot of communities aren't, a lot of communities are not able to do. But it's not reflective of the last couple of weeks. It's reflective of a really, really challenging full year.
And I think, Madam Chairman, it also reflects, the superintendent with the other superintendents in the Middlesex District expressed their concern about this situation. But being a realist and recognizing what's best, he didn't let his opinions stand in the way of what's necessary and required for the students. So I think the teachers respect that. We respect that somebody speaks out, but when the decision comes down, sometimes we have to do what necessarily we might not want to do, but it's the, what has been decided for us. And then you go about it in a professional, business-like manner with all the enthusiasm you would put into something, even if you agreed with it 100%. So I think that just speaks highly. I think that's what we're trying to say. It speaks highly of the leadership, and that leadership flows down throughout the whole system.
Thank you.
I have a good team.
I do. Yeah. It's a great
That's
team.
what we want.
Right.
Okay, so any further comments on gratitude? I don't think it's really a formal motion, but no. Okay, so we're in a good spot.
We got to vote. Motion.
I second Dr. Wells' motion.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
All right. We are officially gratitude. The parents are going to receive the survey and information tomorrow. It's going to have the building-based plans. They're going to be able to see it.
We have correspondence?
Yes, correspondence. The charter school.
Yeah. Move we place it in the public records or.
Yes, it'll be in public record. Dr. Baldassare, do you want to elaborate on the?
Yeah, really briefly.
Yes, please.
This back to the business of schooling. A while back, the Prospect Hill Academy Charter School was seeking preferential enrollment of Woburn students along with 4 other communities. And we voiced a very strong objection because in FY19, at their 2 sites in Cambridge and Somerville, they had only 9 Woburn students. In FY20, they had 13. They were seeking preferential enrollment of our kids when other cities and towns that did not have membership, like Boston with 68 students, Lynn with 28, Malden with 100 students, and Medford with 125, we seem to be kind of pretty far away and pretty low enrollment for them to be, seeking to get our students. As you would expect, off of the cherry sheet, that school would get just about $20,400 per student from Woburn, but only $13,594 from Malden. So you can see the attractiveness of a Woburn student. Based on their minuscule enrollment of Woburn students, we voiced our objection to the commissioner. The commissioner did decline to accept the amendment at this time. That does not mean that they cannot reapply. But what we would hope is that in their new application, that they select other communities by which actually are making legitimate use of their premises and their educational services.
Thank you, Dr. Baldassare. As you remember, the members asked me to reach out to them, but Dr. Baldassare did it. So thank you. Mr. Mulrennan.
We have a little more time for gratitude, Ms. Crowley. I'd like to send some gratitude to the chairperson, or maybe Ms. McLeod. I see we now have our agenda written in a couple of different languages tonight, so I appreciate that to get the word out according to the school committee meeting. So that's very much appreciated. More gratitude.
Thank you, Mr. Mulrennan. All right, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So parents will have the information that they need tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. And if they have questions, they can contact their principal, right?
Yes.
Great. Motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second.
Thank you.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.